had kids and then wasn't such a good father because he was busy with making money. He's still not, no one taught him how to be a better parent. He's just trying.
Had children and then wasn't such a good dad because he was occupied with making money. He's still not, he's nobody showed him how to be a better parent. He's just attempting. I don't bother with those things. Ed O'Neill once confessed something about one of his married with children co-stars. Years, fans believed the sitcom's wacky dysfunction remained on television only, but off-camera, actual tension brewed. O'Neill's biting comments uncovered a feud so heated that it almost destroyed the chemistry of the show. The truth about their acrimonious confrontation is now finally out. Though Married with Children used to depict tensions and confrontations between its characters on television all the time, behind the scenes the working conditions for most of them were relatively serene and friendly. Ed O'Neill, who was Al Bundy, the harried patriarch, and Amanda Burse, who was the next-door Marcy Darcy, were the exceptions. According to reports, their relationship evidenced the same kind of hostility between their characters, with tension building between the two over the course of the show's 11-season run. Unlike most Hollywood rivalries, their hatred was not the product of a single explosive moment, but of the gradual development of clashing personalities, misunderstandings, and conflicting work styles. This back-burning tension eventually boiled over into a reported dressing room outburst in which Ed threatened to have Amanda terminated, a moment that divulged just how deeply their working adversarial relationship had developed. Based on Amanda Burse, it is possible that Ed O'Neill's increasing hostility had been driven by his intolerance of the show itself. Towards the later seasons, Ed confessed that he was tired of the long-running show, the repetitive nature of filming requirements, and the strain of keeping the show a hit sitcom for more than 10 years. Burse observed that this fatigue might have expressed itself in spurts of aggression towards her, especially during the later part of the series. Though this behavior was aimed at Amanda in particular, other members of the cast uniformly described Ed as warm, professional, and easygoing. In interviews, his co-stars insisted that working with him was a pleasure, with no indication of the hostility that characterized his behavior with Amanda. This would indicate that the tension was extremely personal, a result of their dynamic rather than Ed's behavior with the rest of the cast. Ed O'Neill, for his own part, has discussed his own take on their worsening relationship. He offered the opinion that Amanda's own actions during the show changed over time, becoming more forthright and sometimes combative with him and others. Part of this change, according to Ed, involved Amanda's growing willingness to openly discuss her sexuality as a lesbian. In interviews, he hinted that this changing personal expression caused tension, exacerbating the splits between them and driving their conflicts. While his remarks have been contentious and under the microscope, they serve to highlight the fact that the feud was not just over one issue, but about where professional stressors met personal differences and identity shifting during the 10-year production. The aggregate impact was real. Their arguments intensified with time, affecting both their on-set interactions and their off-camera relationship. Their dislike ran so deep, it even culminated with Amanda not inviting Ed to her wedding, quite obviously demonstrating the feud went beyond TV. Though they remained colleagues professionally, keeping the on-screen tension between Al Bundy and Marcy Darcy alive, their off-screen interactions were tense, undermined by resentment and unfinished business. Amanda has characterized the experience as ongoing negotiation, linking professionalism with tension, while Ed has presented it as a conflict of personalities exacerbated by contrasting lifestyles and work styles. What makes this feud so interesting is how different it was from everyone else on the cast. While Ed and Amanda's dynamic was tense, Katie Sagal, Christina Applegate, and David Faustino allegedly had friendly and supportive dynamics with Ed. This difference indicates the feud was very specific and influenced by their personalities and situations, and not by the whole atmosphere. It also shows how long-term series can exaggerate small differences into long-term disagreements. Throughout Married with Children's run, Amanda Burse made a very personal choice that underscored her ambivalent relationship with Ed. She wed a woman during the show's run, a revolutionary action during a period when same-sex marriage was much more unpopular than it is now. To celebrate her wedding, Amanda asked just about everyone from the production staff, cast, and crew to attend, but specifically did not invite two individuals, Ed O'Neill and David Faustino, who played Bud Bundy. When she asked him why, Amanda said she was afraid he would laugh when she and her fiancé walked down the aisle in tuxedos. Ed assured her he wouldn't laugh, but according to reports, he couldn't even keep a straight face when making the vow, confirming Amanda's suspicions. Faustino's exclusion is not clear, but Amanda's ruling in Ed's case appeared to be intentional based on what happened between them. Their animosities went way back past the wedding. Amanda has, over the years, asserted that Ed was partly responsible for how the show came to a close after 11 seasons. She shared a number of incidents where he was aggressive or threatening towards her. One infamous altercation took place in the makeup room when a small disagreement escalated into name-calling until Ed threatened that he could have her fired if he wished. Since Ed was the main star, he would have had that kind of power, whereas Amanda, as much loved as Marcy Darcy, was a supporting role. This made their arguments all the more high-stakes. Ed subsequently confessed to the makeup room skirmish, admitting he behaved inappropriately and regretting his actions, but never issuing an official apology for his aversion to her or for inflammatory comments regarding her sexuality. This failure to reconcile hints at the depth of the feud. The alignment of Ed's high profile, Amanda's increasing confidence and vulnerability, and the stress of a long-term show created a situation where even small disagreements blew out of proportion. The incident at the wedding particularly reflects the ongoing tension as she shut him out from one of her most intimate milestones, showing her discomfort and the tension in their relationship. Her decision to invite almost everyone else indicates that her exclusion of Ed was not a coincidence, but based on experience and self-defense. It further illustrates how their professional rivalry overflowed into personal affairs. Years ago, talk began again about Ed's behavior towards co-stars. Among these, his behavior around Amanda Bearse has gotten the most press. Bearse, who has been open about being lesbian, has described the set as sometimes being difficult and has said Ed's actions towards her have been questioned. While Ed was known for sharp wit, some of that edge spilled into off-camera dynamics, making collaboration difficult. Bearse's personal life also intersected with the show when she married her wife, inviting nearly everyone except Ed and Faustino. When asked, she said she feared Ed might react poorly, perhaps laughing at a solemn moment. Even when he promised to behave, doubts remained, reinforcing the distance between them. The contrast becomes starker when you look at Ed's subsequent career. Decades later, married with children, he found new success as Jay Pritchett on Modern Family, a sitcom widely admired for its representation of LGBTQ+ characters. His character was the father of Mitchell, who was an openly gay character, a part that necessitated sensitivity, humor, and depth. In interviews, Ed came across as warm and supportive in this role, endearing himself to new generations who may not know about his earlier tensions with Amanda. The contrast between his late 1980s off-screen conflicts and his later portrayal of a loving father has fueled debate over how much an actor's past should shape our view of their work. Others attribute this change to personal development and flexibility. While Married with Children succeeded on the basis of irreverent humor and opposing personalities, Modern Family required sympathy and nuance. Ed's success in both indicates a professional coming of age that could have resolved previous conflicts. Some contend Amanda Bearse fans and LGBTQ+ visibility cannot afford to forget the past. But by most accounts, the remainder of the cast of Married with Children had a cordial climate with Ed. They portrayed him as accessible and professional, even in subsequent seasons when long-term pressures tended to weaken relationships. The cast chemistry was evident in filming, with veteran actors and newcomers striking the right balance of humor and chemistry. The core of the show's success was the Bundy family's chemistry, lauded for snarky repartee, lighthearted tension, and preposterous but accessible dysfunction. Katie Segal remembered how chemistry clicked the moment Christina Applegate and David Faustino came aboard as Kelly and Bud. Their arrival changed the vibe and enabled the comedy to sparkle. The series molded every actor's career. Christina Applegate was broadly known as Kelly Bundy, but went on to redefine herself on film and television, sidestepping typecasting and finding critical success. Katie Sagal took off with Sons of Anarchy, demonstrating her dramatic chops. Ed O'Neill went from Al Bundy to Jay Pritchett, displaying versatility and gaining a new generation's affection. Even outside of live action, the cast excelled. Katie Sagal provided the voice of Leela on Futurama, lauded for both range and emotion in voice acting. David Faustino made it big in animation, providing voices for Winx Club and Avatar, The Legend of Korra demonstrating his range. Finally, anticipation for an animated remake of Married with Children. All four Bundys, O'Neill, Sagal, Applegate, and Faustino, will be back, leveraging animation to take humor further than live action could. They ask, however, if Amanda Bearse will play Marcy Darcy once more. She would round out the cast and provide an opportunity for public atonement with Ed. The chemistry of the cast was especially noticeable on set, where a combination of veteran actors and newcomers developed an equilibrium such that humor and chemistry were possible. At the core of the show's success was the chemistry of the Bundy family, which critics and audiences alike often cited. Katie Sagal, the actress who portrayed sharp-tongued and frequently scheming Peggy Bundy, has discussed at length the immediate chemistry between the four main actors after Kelly and Bud Bundy's roles were recast. Christina Applegate and David Fino took over from the original pilot actresses and actors, and their presence totally changed the atmosphere on set. Sagal remembered the chemistry clicked at once. The sarcastic snark, breezy tension, and hyperbolic family dysfunction that characterized the show fell into place as soon as the last cast member arrived on set. This instant rapport enabled actors to play off one another in ways that made the Bundys at once ridiculously funny and oddly likable. Although scripts were frequently outlandish, the chemistry rendered even the most hyperbolic situations believable and compelling. The impact of the show on the careers of the actors cannot be exaggerated. All the lead cast members used their Married with Children experience to forge a varied and long-lasting career in Hollywood. Christina Applegate, who became best known for playing Kelly Bundy, made the crossover into film and eventually television, showcasing a versatility that enabled her to handle both comedy and drama. Her initial celebrity as the dumb blonde stereotype might have trapped her, but again and again, she reinvented herself, gaining critical attention and remaining a mainstay in the entertainment world years after the Bundys made their on-screen debut. In the same way, Katie Sagal's career took flight after Bundy. Years of being a reliable chameleon on stage and screen finally paid off with the part of Gemma Teller-Morrow on Sons of Anarchy, a dark, gritty drama that was far removed from the sitcom mayhem of Married with Children. This part highlighted her depth and earned her fan and critical acclaim, demonstrating that she could excel at rich, deeply emotional